Well, Happy New Year. Um, you may notice that behind me is the pink Christmas tree, the much ridiculed uh, pink Christmas tree from days gone by. And you're thinking, well, why does Ed still have that stupid tree up here? Christmas is over, New Year's is over. Why does he take it down? Well, this just shows what mental midgets all of you are. You've assumed that the tree is still up. Here's what really happened. Contrary to popular rumor, I'm not that stupid. I've already taken it down. What you're seeing now is my getting ahead of next year's Christmas. I put it up again, so I don't have to mess with this thing for an entire year. I just let it sit there until next Christmas comes along. So there, it was up, I took it down, the next day I put it right back up. I know what you're thinking. I misjudged Ed. He's even smarter than I thought he was, and I already thought he was pretty smart. So, there you have it. Now, what I want to talk about. Briefly, I don't want to start the new year off on a negative note, criticizing all the time, but I'm going to do it anyway. Because that's how I was raised. That's why everybody was critical of me. Now that I'm a grown up, or almost a grown up, I'm going to ridicule right back. Ha! So I want to talk about Pete Hegseth. Who's Pete Hegseth? Well, Pete Hegseth was, oh my God, you heard me. He likes Pete Hegseth, or Pete Hegseth, he's a big fan of his. You're just a French dog. Here, get in this bed here and be quiet while I'm busy talking to the people about your friend and mine, Pete Hegseth. Pete Hegseth was, don't make those noises at me, just get in that bed there and go back to sleep. Yeah, you're going to be fine. Yes, well, look at that. Yeah, he's going for it. He's going for it. He'll be back to sleep in no time. Just get in there, for crying out loud. Everything's got to be just right. He's got to rearrange all the blankets and all the pillows. Just perfect, right? Where does he get that anyway? So, Donald Trump appoints Pete Hegseth, who is primarily known as being one of these talking heads on Fox News. Doesn't have a brain in his body, and if you need any further proof of it, the guy went to Princeton. I know. He went to Princeton and he's looking for a job. Good luck with that. So it's not like he went to Michigan. You know, that I had enough trouble when I went to Michigan. I didn't even bother going to Princeton. Why would anybody go there? So, it's kind of that kind of school, if you know what I mean. Not that there's anything wrong with that. So Pete Hegseth was apparently had a distinguished service record in combat in Afghanistan. I think that's where he was. But he was, I don't know what rank he was, but I think he's on the National Guard, became a major, which is not a bad rank, but it doesn't qualify you to be the Secretary of Defense. So he's testifying or asking him questions. And I'm going to make this short because I know you don't like a lot of detail. And besides which, I'm tired. It's almost midnight, and this dog has reminded me that I'm supposed to be in bed. So Pete Hegseth's great claim to fame is that he's not qualified. Yeah, and that's essentially what he said. He said, well, I know I don't have quite the credentials that my predecessors had, who were like, 4-star generals or, spent careers in the Defense Department. He said, as Trump and I discussed, we had all these people with all these credentials, and where did that get us? And not a single one of those morons, Republicans or Democrats, looked at him in the eye and said, well, what that got us, Mr. Pete Hegseth, what a stupid name that is, and I would have said that if I were on that committee. That's a stupid name, Mr. Hegseth. Where that got us is the most powerful fighting force, not just in the history of this country, but in the history of the world. Or, Mr. Hegseth, would you like to say, if you don't think we are, then please be sure to tell everybody right now on national television that we're not the greatest fighting force that ever existed. And we're certainly not the greatest, strongest military in the world today. Is that your message to the American people? Is that where that got us? Because I think the American people would be surprised to find that all those people with credentials actually got us to the position where we are today, where we are unchallenged as the single most lethal, the word you seem to like so much, lethality, most lethal defense in the world right now, and nobody in the world that I know of doubts that, except apparently you. So if you doubt that, please state yes or no. It's a yes or no question, and I wouldn't let him get by with this sleeping around and changing the subject the way these people always do. I'd make him answer the question: Are we or are we not the greatest fighting force in the history of the world right now? And if he says no, then the next question would be, why not? Explain why you think we're not. No one asked him those questions. I just don't get it. As Republicans or Democrats, they like the Republicans were just terrible. Democrats asked some tough questions, but they were reading from a script. Well, why do you didn't you say that women shouldn't be in combat? Yeah, he did say that, but then he said I've changed my position. End of story. What more are you how much more are you gonna milk that? But the other thing that they should have done, and I'm gonna finish with this, because this is just something I'm just wanted to I didn't want you to forget about me, like most people do. And that is that he kept saying this thing that makes me so damn mad, which is under the Biden administration, our withdrawal from Afghanistan was a disaster, and heads should roll for that. Not just Biden's, but all the people, the military people who handle it, they should pay a big price for that. Not a single person looked at him and said, as I would have said, well, Mr. Hegseth, tell me, put yourself in a position, if you're in charge of that operation, you're there, you've got to get these people out of the airport, what would you have done to pretend we're your soldiers sitting up here in this dais? You're going to tell us what to do. What would you be telling us to do that would have prevented some crazed suicide bomber in a crowd of thousands of people setting off a bomb that killed a bunch of innocent people? How would you have prevented that from happening? And then I would have waited his answer. And you know what his answer would have been? He wouldn't have one, because there's no way you can stop in a situation like that's that chaotic. So fallback position for him is, well, I wouldn't have let him get in that position in the first place. I would have had more troops that. Well, Mr. Hegseth, you realize we had 2,400 total troops in Afghanistan as a result of the withdrawal of President Trump. For all those years where he got us down to basically a skeleton crew, there was barely enough people there to police the airport and get as many people out of there as they did. So, Mr. Hegseth, whose fault is it that there were only 2,400 people there? Are you saying that was the problem, that there weren't enough American troops left in Afghanistan? Tell us some details. No one pressed him. The guy is totally unqualified to be Secretary of Defense, and we get through the next however long many years he lasts without a major catastrophe. We will consider ourselves very lucky. And with that, you are lucky enough to know that I have completed this podcast, and I have enjoyed every minute of listening to myself talk. I wish I could say the same for you. All right, that's it. I'm going back to bed. My dog is mad at me enough, so good night.